I'll be here for you.
Thank you for joining the Escape With Me book club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Caitlin.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we are going to Fantasyland Esperia.
Great job.
Oh my gosh, did I pronounce that right?
Esperia, that's the pronunciation, yep.
I will now celebrate this victory by mispronouncing the rest of the characters' names for the rest of the episode. Woo! Published April 4th, 2023, When You Wish Upon a Star is the 14th installment of the Twisted Tales series. We swear. I know that people sometimes put Sword in the Stone ahead because it published ahead of this one, but if you take the UK date for When You Wish Upon a Star, that is actually earlier. So even though we used the April 4th, 2023, the US publication, in the UK, this one's published first. So I swear. I promise.
Oh. So we're going based on the UK date. Okay.
This time, we take a look into the backstory of Geppetto and the Blue Fairy, who knew each other in their youth. But who are the Heartless? And why wasn't the Blue Fairy supposed to help Pinocchio? Which, by the way, ma'am, Elizabeth? Heartless? I can't. Kingdom Hearts, though.
Yeah, come on, Kingdom Hearts.
And I know she's heard of Kingdom Hearts. She is a Juilliard-trained composer who is award-winning composer for video games. You know she's in that world.
Excuse you.
Do you like Kingdom Hearts? Is that why we're here? Monstro is in the video games. You run around in him, and the goal is to get Pinocchio and Geppetto out. And I want to run around in the purple, green, and blue blobs and the squishiness and the da-da-da-da. Just made me want to play the game.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to be listening to the theme song, Sober and Clean, or whatever it's called, while I listened to the book.
Ma'am, did we like Kingdom Hearts? Is that why we're here? I have questions. But other background, I hated this movie. I thought it was weird. I thought it was creepy, and not in Hunchback of Notre Dame way creepy.
Well, this one just came out so much earlier. I mean, like Hunchback at least was the 90s, you know? Actually, when did Pinocchio come out? It had to have been like maybe the 70s.
It came out in 1940.
Whoa, way earlier than I thought. So it's just, I've never really liked Pinocchio. It's creepy, especially as a kid. My mom had nightmares about Monstro. She hated Monstro.
And then, and Dumbo right here is 1941, which is exactly what I was going to compare it to.
Wow, yes, around the same time.
What was going on in the 40s that we were just strangely dark? And then other references, Snow White came out in 37, and then Peter Pan came out in 53. So we were like right in the beginning.
Which is why it's considered a classic, but it's just, I don't know. I don't feel like it holds up well. And the story is definitely a little contrite, the lying stuff. I get the lesson it's trying to teach, but it just feels too ironically like black and white. And I think that's actually a theme they try to explore in this book, but don't actually execute very well.
But yeah, never liked it. Thought it was weird. It's based off a book.
Oh.
Because every Disney movie ever is based off a book. I don't think they've had an original thought in their entire lives. But it came out in 1883.
Whoa.
And apparently he descends into the pit of hell like Odysseus.
What?
It looks like instead of it being a series where one author publishes all of them, a bunch of authors published their versions of what the Pinocchio adventure would be like.
There's more than one.
So it seems like it became a cultural icon, I guess.
So the original story kept getting tagged on and published, not just adaptations or anything. Like someone kept trying to make books from the storyline.
Yeah, Pinocchio. Geppetto's in the original. His nose growing longer is in the original. So this is pretty on point, I guess.
Interesting.
If I somehow figured out how to get this book, I don't even know the obscurity of some of these books. Moving on. Age level YA, because this is still a young adult series, and content warning. Blood, child abuse, physical, mental, emotional, animal abuse, animal death mentioned, sexual harassment, kidnapping, human trafficking, and torture.
Pretty intense for Elizabeth. Darkness isn't your thing, ma'am.
Judging by its cover, I never know what to do with these. It's the Blue Fairy on the cover, so hopefully this is more about Blue Fairy than Pinocchio, which it is, and I'm very thankful of it. A majority of the book has nothing to do with Pinocchio.
Yeah, very. I'm noticing the dove, which also obviously comes into play. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a little town square with her, the wand. I will say, reading this book, when they were talking about the main character that we knew was going to become the Blue Fairy, she did not look anything in my head like what the Blue Fairy looks like in Pinocchio or what this outline is here. Nothing. nothing like it.
So the question, of course, is what if the blue fairy wasn't supposed to help Pinocchio? And I had no idea what to do with that.
Yeah, and I still don't know if that is, again, a little bit of a misleading question.
It's not like some of the other ones where it's like, what if Aladdin never got the lamp? And he did get the lamp, though.
That's fair.
He just didn't get to keep it. So it's not as bad as that, but it's not exactly, I don't know, not Alice in Wonderland. What if Alice was too late to save the day or something? And it's like, that feels like a very good representation of what this book is about. It's technically correct.
Yeah.
She was not supposed to help Pinocchio.
There's fairy laws.
I don't know. I feel like to properly represent the book, we should talk more about something to do with her background and not necessarily Pinocchio. But I guess that is the climax of the book, the fact that she wasn't supposed to help Pinocchio. But yeah, I never know what to do with these covers. It's Pinocchio!
Yep.
It's not at all. Barely anything to do with it.
Yeah, the plot of the movie is entwined in the book, and it's not changed at all, except for your perspective is zoomed out and you see the fairies manipulating the situation, right? Everything that happens in Pinocchio happens still and nothing changes. You just see how the fairies are helping it happen.
It's like the levels in Kingdom Hearts where the movie's happening in the background and you're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
But your actions coincide on big parts of the movie. So you see snippets of the movie, but you're mainly doing something else.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why this book is written like that.
Maybe.
Like I said, it really is barely to do with Pinocchio. To get into it a little bit, it's the Blue Fairy's backstory, but also a little bit Crips versus Blood. Did we all not see that? It's blue versus red.
Yeah, it got a little obvious with the blue versus red. Yep.
I thought that was a little bit funny. You're going to have to help me with these names, because I did my best. But Kyra?
Nope. Kiara. Kiara and Kia.
Kia. Oh, dear.
Yeah, so the CHIA is Kia.
Okay, we got Kia, and we've got Ilaria?
Ilaria, or Illy.
That's how I thought it was, but then the back half looked like Maria.
I see how you see that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kept saying Ilaria. Okay, good. I'm glad my brain didn't take on that one.
Yep. Take a guess at their last name?
Belmaggio.
Belmaggio, yeah.
Ha! My Italian blood is somewhere in there. Under the Vikings and the kilts, somewhere in there we get back to Italy. But they are in a small town, middle of nowhere, Italy.
Yep.
Kia is close to her sister. Her sister likes having an audience, frankly.
Her sister. I have many problems with Illy.
I have all the problems with her. She's a horrible person.
Yup.
She's insanely selfish. And she's on the emotionally immature scale easily. In your opinion, do we get to Narcissus?
Well, I think the end redeems her.
The end is contrite and only redeemed because she had to be to make the book happy.
Well, but narcissists don't typically get that kind of redeeming. Well, I guess you don't really ever see the redeeming qualities of narcissism, right?
The ending aside, because I have my own issues, we'll get to there probably if I do not spill it out first. But the ending aside,
I mean, yes, there's a couple, like if I look at like the actual criteria for it, right? Unreasonably high sense of self-importance, requiring excessive constant admiration, 100%. Deserve privilege and special treatment, 100%. But I will say, expect to be recognized as superior without achievements. In her town, she was superior. She just didn't realize that that wasn't going to hold up to it when she was a small fish in a big pond.
Yeah.
Preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty. Yep, definitely. Superior to the others only. I think she doesn't raise herself above the people around her. She doesn't consider those around her to be equally special. She wants people who are going to look at her as better than them.
Yes.
But yeah, critical on people they don't feel like are important, special favors. They get impatient or angry if they don't receive recognition.
Even if she did receive recognition, it wasn't the type of recognition. Yeah.
Yes, happened many times. Reacting with rage or contempt to try to belittle others to make themselves appear superior. Yup.
All the time.
Can't manage her emotions or behavior, 100%. Yeah, I mean, personally, I felt like not by the end, because again, there's that redemption, but through most of it, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I was hesitant to go so far as borderline, because I think the only thing that would hesitate the narcissism is that she has this attachment to Kia so hard, and it almost feels like her whole identity falls apart when the idea of Kia leaving.
But it's because Kia is her number one supporter. I never felt like she cared about her like a sister sister, I felt like she cared about that there was one less person in her audience to obsess over her. There was one last satellite in her orbit. Because she doesn't actually care. There's not a moment where Illy's like, I miss this about my sister. I like this about my sister.
That's not self-absorbed.
You're abandoning me. And you promise to forever be in my shadow, even though I claim that I'm in your shadow. It's never legitimate.
Yeah, but I will say from the perspective of, again, BPD, they'll do whatever they can to get around the feelings of abandonment or get around being abandoned, and her pursuing the Heartless once she knew that Kia was going to go back to the fairies. That screams a little BPD to me, but I think it's a toss up. But for sure, the lack of care and empathy for other people, that's narcissism all the way.
Yeah, because we've talked about it before. We talked about narcissism with the evil queen in Snow White. You were the feeling, no, she still has really big empathetic moments. And in comparison, I was a little bit on her, like, I don't know if she actually loves her sister, if she just whatever, but in comparison, the evil queen loved her sister.
Yes, that is fair. In the end of the day, there was true love. And that's why I'm saying, right, it's hard because you get the end where there is some sort of, okay, I am going to turn around. I'm going to allow myself to feel the emotions and everything.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hesitant to full on diagnose it as that, but pretty close.
Yeah. I was just curious. Unfortunately for the book, Illy is a narrator.
Is one of them, yes.
And there are 3?
Yeah, I think it's Kia, Illy, and Geppetto.
Which, interestingly enough, this book only has chapter numbers. And up to this point, I feel like majority of the times, if they had switching narrators, either the chapter title was the name of the narrator or they were in italics or something. Like this narrator. And so more inconsistencies with the editing and the publishing, but it's fine. I'm just going to remind everyone of that all the time until something changes. We will do this until morale improves. Of the 3 narrators, Illy ruined the book for me, honestly. It is just pages and pages and pages of her delusions.
Yeah.
And her being a horrible person. And then you're like, are there redeeming qualities here, though? And then we get her narration and you go, oh.
No.
None.
None at all.
Literally none. She hangs out with Geppetto because he actually worships her.
And only after she knows Kia's going to be gone. It's literally a replacement. It's a 1-for-1, it feels like, because Kia's like, she's going to need a friend. And I'm sorry. This was where I made this comment where she was talking about how like she ships the 2 of them and she's trying to lead them together. I don't like empathy with ignorance because someone who is claiming to be very empathetic and respecting and caring of people, is pairing a very nice boy with her very borderline narcissistic sister, right? Someone who is not. And that's her ignorance, her inability to see past the flaws and see her family for who they are.
It's for Illy. It's not for Geppetto. It's for Illy. Every time she gets them together, she's like, oh, hopefully he can help her.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That ignorance of what are you doing to Geppetto in it, I'm not a fan of. That was one moment I was kind of frustrated with Kia. I was like, what are you doing to this nice boy?
I was frustrated with Kia with everything to do with Illy. She is constantly, and it points out in the book, it's like, oh, she only sees the good in people, and Illy only sees the bad in people. And Illy keeps saying things like, not everyone is good or bad. And in the end, it's supposed to be this lesson, but
yeah,
I don't think the book actually accomplishes that lesson, because Illy isn't doing good for bad reasons or bad for good reasons, or even having a true, I do bad, but I also do good. So it's complicated. I don't even think they get to a lesson of don't write off people. They can redeem themselves. That keeps coming up, and it felt like she wanted to do something there, but it's not there because Illy is a horrible person.
Well, no, I do think that what she was aiming for at the end, right? Because like you said, Kia throughout the whole thing is like, there can be goodness in people. It's not black and white. And I get that. I believe that. I'm a therapist. It's not black and white. It's gray. You got to find the in-between in people's morality. A good person doing one bad thing doesn't make a bad person, and a bad person doing one good thing doesn't make them a good person, right? Kind of thing. And the fairies are very black and white, but on both sides. And Kia's trying to find the middle in her sister. And what she's saying is, well, because she's not a full heartless, she doesn't have her heart, but we know that Illy is still experiencing emotion and regret and vulnerability and all that kind of stuff. There is something worth redeeming. But then, like you said, they never pay that storyline off. That's what we want you to do, but we're not actually going to give a resolution to it. And it doesn't make any sense, like you said, because Illy barely overcomes that to see the gray in her.
Yeah, murdering her sister was a field too far. All the other stuff she was doing was fine. Here's the thing that bothers me, though. In the end, the fairies are like, oh, maybe we are too black and white. Except Kia's training is exactly what she's doing with her sister. She goes to a super evil guy and is like, you can be redeemed. And then has the two sons, and to both of them constantly coming back to them, you can be redeemed. You can be redeemed. So she's not having oh, you're either good or bad. The fairies have always been like, you can still redeem bad people. Give them a chance. Do whatever.
Oh, it's true. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. It is more of if the spell hasn't fully taken hold, right? Like that was the point of Vito and Stromboli, was when she visited them as kids.
Yeah.
It hadn't fully taken them on, but
even later, she's visiting Stromboli several times over the years. And it's just, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm worried Elizabeth hit her, you guys are making me have to write too fast and I can't edit line.
Oh, the inconsistencies are wild in the story.
The continuity errors are pretty bad.
Yeah.
Illy has two friends, one named Simona.
Yeah, Simona and not Beatrice.
Yeah, it's Beatrice.
Is it Beatrice?
Yeah, it might just be pronounced Italian, but spelling-wise, it's Beatrice. And in the beginning of the book, Sophia's father is the postmaster. At the end of the book, Beatrice's father is the postmaster.
Yeah.
They are not sisters.
No, they're not.
And so it was just things like that where I feel like if we had gotten a chance to edit this, we would have caught that.
Or you pointed out one too, it's when they're having the goodbye party for Kia, Geppetto tells her, she finds out that Kia is the one who sent Geppetto to her, but then she comes back and is like, oh my gosh, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, you were the one who sent Geppetto to me? It's just, ugh.
Yeah, the first thing Geppetto says is when he walks up is, hey, your sister was worried about you, so I came looking for you. And so I'm a little hesitant on that one because immediately Illy is like, oh, only Geppetto cares where I am. Not even Kaya cared where I was. And so I was wondering if that was just more speaking to delusions, because she also just had, Kaya pointed out, a bunch of people listened to her music and applaud and were amazing. And then she immediately walks off like, nobody cares what I do. And it just felt like that Meet the Robinsons moment.
That's fair.
Where it's like, hey guy, what's up? Want to hang out later? Let's do that. And everyone hated me.
Yeah, you pointed out at one point that they're both unreliable narrators, right? Because Illy is so wrapped up in her own world. Kia makes the comment that the children went up and swooned to her and were like, oh my gosh, you're so great. And she just waltzes away like she didn't see anything, right? If you were to read this book purely from Illy's point of view, again, that's the way the narcissist portrayal, like when you talk to them, you're going to notice after a while that everything is everybody else's fault, not theirs, and everyone is treating them poorly. And it really is that unreliable narrator, like you said. But Kia at the same time isn't super great either, because she cannot acknowledge, or does not acknowledge until the very end, the way her sister has manipulated her, right? And the evil that has taken hold in her heart, instead of, again, acknowledging it and pointing it out. Again, toxic positivity, burying your head in the sand, not a fan.
And so that's why when it comes to the applause scene, their stories are so wildly different. I'm like, we're somewhere in the middle, aren't we? Because according to Kaya, oh my gosh, there were people, and as soon as she started singing, everyone stopped, and more people from the house came into the room, and they opened the doors so people in the courtyard could hear her singing. And at the end, she had rapturous applause, and all the children immediately ran up to her, begging her to teach them how to sing. And in her version, she got a little bit of polite applause.
Yep.
We're somewhere in the middle here. I feel like Kaya would take polite applause as rapturous praise. So it's hard on both of them. But that just makes me hate Kaya as the narrator too.
Yeah, Kia is not great either.
And I feel like the strongest points are when she's doing fairy stuff and learning about fairy things, and then it becomes a fantasy, which is what Elizabeth Lim writes in her own time, is fantasies, these fairy tale fantasies. And so that's the strongest part, but a majority of the book is just all about Illy.
Yeah.
From all three perspectives. It's about Illy.
Exactly.
Man, can we get Pinocchio back? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What did I do?
You made this comment. You said, when we were talking about how rude Illy is to Geppetto, you said, maybe I just don't get siblings. I'm like, nah, siblings are rough sometimes, and siblings can be difficult coming from having my own sister who I fought with a lot in childhood. But this is a whole other level. So don't worry. That's not just you just missing sibling dynamic.
Yeah, I'm an only child, and I always want to give that credit to be like, I don't know how siblings work. But yes, the quote was, sometimes you're a jerk with a personality disorder, and sometimes you're just a jerk. And both.
Yeah.
Something's going on with Illy. As long as that things are going her way, she's great. She's fun. She's really nice. She'll talk to you, and it'll be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as things are not going her way, which is always the worst. The worst. Inside and out. And we know for sure because we get to see into her mind. I feel like if she hadn't been a narrator, maybe I would have given her more of a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, maybe.
But no, you know for sure what she is thinking at length for chapters. For example, she wants to be a famous opera singer. That's her whole wish. And as you pointed out, she was a big fish in a small pond, and now she's a small fish in a big pond. And she goes and she sings, and they're like, you don't got what it takes.
Yeah.
To be at this level. And she's leaving, and there's this other girl who sings it, and she is so talented. Illy hears it. She's like, oh, I see what I'm missing. I see that I'm not up to this level. And then as soon as she gets home, she's like, oh, she just had nicer clothing than I did.
Yeah, there's a breakthrough of, oh, I see what she means. She literally says the line, oh, she wasn't being rude. She wasn't being a bully. Truly, everything that they told me I didn't have, she has, right? She was just being honest with me, which she was still being a bully about it, right? But then, yeah, she goes home and she puts on this bravado, decides to lie for months about the fact that she did get into this program and that she was going to be going to live in Valan.
And she's the only pupil.
Yeah.
It's not even, oh, I made it into the program. It's, oh, she loved my music and I am her only pupil and I'm going to be so, it's so over the top.
Yeah. Again, narcissism.
How did you think you were going to get away with this?
And no one questioned her either. And I saw you make a note that, like, there's no way Geppetto kept the secret.
And then he does.
I think there was a line that even said that he understood why she was lying. And I'm like, my man, this is a town full of enablers. I'm not here for it. The one person who actually called her to the floor, her boss, when she fired Illy, right? It's like, you can't expect your friends to run the shop when I'm not here and you're not here. You can't expect to just show up late and leave. Like, her boss actually holds her accountable and she's like, she just doesn't understand. She's such a mean old lady. No, ma'am. What are you talking about?
She steals a hat. She's so deep into this delusion. She steals a hat and she says, this is so one day you can carve my name into your shop because I used to work here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so bad. This is true. We've split. We are in a crisis right now, not able to manage herself. But then I did appreciate how the narration between Kia and Illy when Kia came back for her week with her family, where she was talking about the very intentional manipulation to get Kia into this space to grant her the wish that she wanted, right?
Oh yeah, she knows what she's doing.
Oh, master at it. Yeah.
She says horrible things and then it's like, oh, my sister hurts. Good. That was my plan. I wanted to say the meanest thing I could get.
Yep.
To get under her skin. And she literally knows she's manipulating her.
Yep.
And then is upset if she doesn't fall for the manipulation, as if it is a personal slight, as if she was not trying to manipulate and had those genuine feelings. And how dare Kaya not fall for her manipulation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bad. And here's the thing. The prologue is the blue fairy hears Geppetto's wish, brings Pinocchio to life. She knows she's not supposed to do that. She's about to go talk to the council when, oh my gosh, the scarlet fairy appears. I love that everyone is a different color, but I don't believe that the color yellow and rose were taken before the color blue was. You had the orange and the yellow fairy before anyone was like, I like the color blue.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Well, to be fair, they do establish that fairies come and go, so it's possible that mantle could have been there.
True. Maybe there was a blue fairy, and then they decided not to be a fairy anymore. Fair enough. But a scarlet fairy shows up, and she's like, oh, you're not doing your responsibilities again. You know, this hint at this great betrayal.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my gosh, what happened?
Oh, I was wondering what you were referencing as the betrayal. I was like, what are you talking about? What betrayal? Yep.
Yeah, because she's just like, oh, you're not following through on your obligations again. Oh, look at you promising more than you can give. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? You guys clearly have some background.
Yeah.
Flashes back And immediately, as soon as they were like, and her sister had dark hair, I was like, she's the Scarlet Fairy. And then a couple of lines later, it's like, oh, her favorite color is red. I was like, there we go. Confirmed, the future Scarlet Fairy. So you're like, what does she do? And the way fairies works in this world is you're a human, and then you can be trained to become a fairy. And that's how fairies are made. So she wants to become a fairy, and Illy feels really abandoned. And once again, I was pointing out in the beginning, there's literally nowhere in the book that she says, I like anything about her sister, or that she's actually going to miss anything about her sister. It's just about how she's leaving Illy.
Yep.
It is just about that, and it's so frustrating. But what is the betrayal? That doesn't seem to be a thing. Ellie finally comes to terms with it, I guess, because it's an inevitable. Whatever. She's supposed to come back on her birthday, 5 months later. Birthday rolls around, and oh my gosh, this big thing is happening in the fairy world, and she needs to talk to Agatha, her mentor, who's been teaching her everything, and she's really whatever. And you get to another chapter. Oh, halfway through the day, Illy is in the hat shop. This is when she gets fired. Halfway through the day, Kia isn't there yet. And I'm like, does she miss her birthday? Is that I have overpromised? And she was like, all I want when you're a fairy is for you to be there on my birthday. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to say that was fair, because I was still very petulant to be like, oh my gosh, you missed my birthday. How could you? Which has got a lot going on, but it would be understandable. No, she shows up for her birthday. I was like, okay, we're here for the birthday. Really focused on her and whatever. Doesn't get her a present, but she promises to do something. And I was like, this is weird. I guess it's coming later. The betrayal is Illy purposely manipulates Kaya to say things like, I will try to help you reach your goal.
Yep.
That is all. Illy's like, hey, my goal didn't happen. She's the first one that she tells. It didn't work out. I'm super upset about it. And Kaya's like, there are other places. And that was my thought. You don't have to go to Valen to be the pupil of the best one ever if you're not there yet.
Yeah.
You can go to other cities, start small, get your talent, build up to it. But of course, that's not good enough for her. But Kaya points out, I'm not allowed to grant wishes for family and whatever, but Illy still makes her promise, I will do whatever I can to help you. And then Illy goes, grant me a wish. And Kaya says, I can't. And there's the betrayal.
Yep, that's it. You promised.
No, she didn't.
The rules state, So that's hilarious to get her. She's like, well, you would have broken the rules for her, wouldn't you? And you're like, oh my gosh, come on.
Well, the first thing her conscience says is no.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't have.
And then she's like, no, I would have. And it's so funny. Larissa is an evil fairy. They're honestly cartoonishly evil to the point where I'm like, I can't really whatever with you. And does a manipulation. She claims, oh, I was a part of the fairies. And then my mother, her village got attacked and burned down. And I wanted to help her. And they didn't want me to help her. And then now I'm whatever. So they're actually terrible people.
Yeah.
And later on, to show how cartoonishly evil, Kaya points out to her, no, she's lying to you. Something's up here. And Illy's like, no, there's not. And then 40 years later, Illy finds out, oh, yeah, no, Larissa's mom.
They all planned it, yeah.
Planned it. They hired the people to burn down the town so that they could get riches, and the fairies called them out for it.
Yep.
Because they did it a second time with the other evil fairy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Illy is shocked.
Yep.
After 40 years of them women tricking people and turning them into bears and killing people, and now they've made an island where little boys get turned into donkeys and sold off. 40 years of this, but oh my gosh, how could they have lied to me?
Yeah.
You're an idiot. I can't.
Yeah, again, it's okay, so you buried your head in the sand, you got your fame in Valan, but now age and wisdom is starting to ripen, and the way they get the excuse, right, is you're not a full heartless, so you still have, again, like I said, the vulnerability, the regret, the guilt of it all. There was a line where she says the hardest part of the night was listening to all the fear and terror of the boys becoming donkeys on the island and all that kind of stuff, and that's where she's coming from, and that's they let the ear earworm wiggle in, right? Of, oh my gosh, that's the straw that broke the camel's back, that, oh gosh, Kia was right. These people have been lying to me and I can't do this anymore. But if they did not set it up and build it up for her to have that vulnerability and make it matter.
They really set up Kaya. They have chapters and chapters and chapters of her learning about the fairies and becoming a fairy and this, that, and the other thing, and her heart.
Yeah, questioning it.
But as soon as Illy's like, I'm going to join the Heartless, there's that time jump. And so we don't get to see what she's experienced in her 40 years and what her training looked like and what manipulations Larissa and the other one use against her. We just get kind of a vague dynamic of, oh yeah, the other one totally hates me and Larissa comes to my aid and stuff. And they try to cram it in and it just makes it very hollow. It's not great, but one of the things that Larissa used to tell her, oh, you should join our side and get magic powers and be all powerful and you can do whatever you want with them, is why don't you go and grant wishes for all the people you know? Because your sister's not going to do it. She's going to listen to fairy rules. She goes to every single person. She goes to Geppetto and says, I'll make you a famous toy maker. And he's like, no, I'm good here. So she throws a fit and makes him forget her, which I don't know why she didn't end up doing it with a bunch of other people too. Because she goes to her brother and she goes to her parents and she's like, I'm going to promise you riches and all this stuff. And they're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks. This is actually the life I want. So she got, quote unquote, got these powers to help other people, and then none of them want it. And so instead, she just makes herself a famous opera singer.
Yep.
It's, I don't know, there's something really funny in that to me. The irony of that. I'm going to tell myself I'm a good person because I'm going to help everybody except no one accepts my help.
Yeah.
So I don't know what she's been doing for 40 years.
Who knows?
But for being such a long book, I'm worried this is going to be like a super short episode because we can nitpick, but
I mean, honestly, yeah, we didn't go through the plot one by one, but yeah, that is the book. Yes, she's redeemed, and yes, she comes back, and they get to have their time together. And like I said, nothing about the original story of Pinocchio has changed. There's no editing on that. There's just, yep, Pinocchio, except zoom out and pay more attention to the fairies.
Yes.
Nothing of Pinocchio changed, and we don't know anything about the Blue Fairy. A lot of our books and our reviews and stuff will talk about the difference between movie character and book character, like even Rapunzel, right? The difference between Rapunzel in the movie and then Rapunzel with the Moonflower, right? There's almost nothing to compare to because it is literally a completely new story.
Yes.
About a character we get almost no information about from the original source.
This series has a habit of the question being some form of, but what if the female character did it?
Yep, you've pointed that out before.
So many books. And this is an extension of that, which really makes me think their main target is women.
Oh, yeah.
Which is funny because I think they started off with Aladdin to try to get some of the male readers in, and then they pretty quickly gave up on that. But it's not even, because there's not really any female characters in the movie, and so they had to...
That's true.
Hey, that woman that's in this for like 10 seconds total? Let's make an entire book about her.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I was thinking about this earlier when you said it, when you were mentioning the fairy comparison. I actually went back to Tinkerbell, right? And all the Tinkerbell movies they made about fairies. And it's pretty common, right, to have like your dark fairies and your good fairies kind of thing. So, I mean, I did like that, the balance of the light and the dark and everything. But it's just, and again, like you said, it's comical, the darkness. And I think that's where I guess I have to remind that this is YA because it has to be black and white.
I don't know.
We just don't see them as often. Like Illy, they're trying to tout her as morally gray, but she's not really.
I just feel like that's a disservice to YA people, like teenagers. I think YA is the perfect time to introduce morally gray. And I like the lesson of not everyone's good or bad, but the book doesn't do it.
No, it tries. It really does make an effort, but it doesn't land.
But I've used the phrase in the past, this book has a lot of story, not a lot of plot. This doesn't really have a lot of story. It just has a lot of thoughts. We learn a lot about thoughts and what people are thinking at all times and justifications for characters, which isn't bad, but I mean, there's only so much we can say about that.
Yeah, because it's just the same thing over and over. It's the same trope. It's the same, like you said, excuse just over and over again of how do we redeem this seemingly irredeemable character and adjust our morality to make it make sense.
Yeah, I could sit here and nitpick for for example. Geppetto goes out on a boat because he wants some time away from his dad, and then Monstro exists and destroys his boat, somehow manages not to kill Geppetto. Kaya, Illy, and their older brother, Nico, are in a boat, and they see the wreckage. Kaya jumps in to go save him, which I immediately thought, that's stupid. You should have rowed the boat really quickly to get him in, because if you go over there and he is actively drowning, he will drown you.
Yep.
And you will have nowhere to save yourself or him. And fine, whatever. He gets there, he's resting on a piece of driftwood, he's about to pass out. And I'm like, okay, maybe she provides some first aid or something. No, she just kind of gets there, and then Nico and Illy row the boat to them. Illy pulls him into the boat. She didn't do anything. The entire rescue scene.
No, yeah. In fact, she then complains that he got water on her dress.
Illy did more than Kaya did in that moment. Kaya literally just risked her life and then did nothing. And then the whole book is the fairies going, oh my gosh, Kaya, they've been watching her, but that moment really showed your heart. It showed her heart to be stupid, which is fair, because she kind of is. So I can nitpick at those things.
Yeah.
And be like, what are you doing? This doesn't do what you think it is. But that's kind of the summation of her whole character.
Yeah, basically.
She acts without thinking, and she has a good heart, so most of the time it works out. But I don't know, I think a lesson on not spreading yourself super thin would have been good for this. Not taking on everyone's burdens all the time.
Yeah, and I did think they were going to go that way a little bit, because they did work with Kia on the idea of, I actually find it hilarious that they spent a lot of time describing Kia's special power to read people, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm such an empath, and what a great thing that is. I'm like,
it's horrible.
It's actually a trauma response, and hyper focusing on people's emotions so that they don't get upset, so that you stay peaceful. That is a textbook PTSD response.
Yep.
That's not a good thing. And so my little therapist brain, right? Like, narcissism tends to come from something that happens in childhood. Borderline personality disorder tends to come from something that happens in childhood. Again, that need to be on edge and read people's emotions, even if it comes from a good place. Like, a lot of people, especially when they get into adulthood, they do see it like as a genuine skill that helps them advance. And it does, but the inability to turn it off and dial it back so that your own needs can be met, that's a problem. That is you manipulating your own emotions and your own peace, right? For the sake of others' peace. And I don't like, especially as I get into this point as a therapist, I don't like books that tout that as like a great thing, because it's not. Like I said, empathy with ignorance is a whole form of not self-harm or anything, but
neglect, self-neglect.
Yeah, neglect. There you go. Self-neglect. I read this quote that said, empathy without boundaries is always going to result in manipulation or someone taking advantage of you, right? Because you cannot have an infinite amount of empathy. It's just not possible. You are going to run dry at some point if you don't take care of yourself. And they even tried to say that in the fairy rules, like, we tell you to forget your family because your loyalty to us needs to be basically the top priority. Like, you can't have loyalty to anything else above this job. And that, I feel like, something that we tout is a good thing. Like, this is the number one priority, and forget everything else aside from that. I'm like, that's not healthy. That much devotion is not healthy. And I get we're talking about fairy rules and all that kind of stuff, and there are problems, people knowing that fairies exist and that their family members are fairies. Like, okay, cool. Especially like we talked about, to a YA audience, that is a very dangerous lesson to be putting out there and emphasizing to the YA community.
And it is celebrated. It is the good character. It's good. It's a good thing that she has this. That's why she became a fairy.
Yeah.
It's great that she can feel it. And yeah, it literally is, the fairies are constantly working themselves to death, making the world a better place.
And they're like, oh, we come back to eat, we come back to rest, but that's the most basic thing you can do.
Yeah, and here's where I'm like, Illy was wasted. I thought Illy was going to balance her.
She could have.
And they were going to be able to learn something from each other, where she is constantly seeing the good in people and Illy seeing the bad in people. And so Illy would be able to teach her sister discernment, and Kaya was going to be able to teach Illy, maybe help her world perspective, give her a little bit more. Bad people probably had bad things to them, and not to the point where Kaya's like, oh, I'll talk to a random drunk next to an inn who threatens to harm my family. Yeah, that's a normal thing for me to do and risk my own safety doing. Which, by the way, I can't with picturesque little villages. Oh, they're so pretty. We know literally everyone. There's like 300 people here. All the streets are lovely, and we have a million violins gardens and music and flowers and bread and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, here's the super seedy part of the village.
Yeah.
Yeah, this road is dangerous right here because of the Red Lobster. I can't.
Oh my God. The Red Lobster. I lost my crap at that. That was so funny.
I can't. It's named the Red Lobster Inn. Elizabeth, you can't do this.
You can't do that. Someone call Red Lobster's lawyers.
Ugh, they don't have enough money. They wasted it all on the shrimp promotion.
Oh, it's so true, though.
I can't do this.
Yeah, I do like your comment, though.
I think it should have been called the Olive Garden, but maybe that was too close.
I guess
Olive Garden isn't shutting down a bunch of their... Maybe they have money to sue, but you kidding me?
I guess Red Lobster somehow evokes more of, seedy tavern versus like a garden.
I think it's supposed to reference like they're by the sea.
Yeah, and they're fishermen and...
But for all their talk about food, they don't talk about seafood once.
Well, no, they do talk about when he's in Monstro, all the tuna that he collects. So, like, we can just live off of tuna. But yeah, it's so much pastry in the baking, which is cool. I like it. Italians love for coffee and pastries, but that's it. That's basically it.
And it's real. Our lives surround food. And I like how she weaves in food into the culture. And I also like how she pays a lot of attention to the fashion. Because that's what we do. Every day we wake up, we decide what outfit we're going to wear based on whatever we're doing. And we eat all day. Our lives surround food and fashion. So I always appreciate when they make a culture of it. But I'm worried about this family because they really do only eat pastries.
Yeah, that's it. That's all they show.
They got some nuts, but I'm really worried about their protein levels. They get plenty of vitamin C, but are we getting any potassium?
I don't know.
You get my point where I'm like, this doesn't seem well balanced. A lot of Italian house, so there's a lot of carbs, and that makes sense. But they don't even really mention oil very much, now that I think about it. Do they have an entire vegetable in any of the book? Do we ever see vegetables?
I don't recall. The only meal they ever describe having is breakfast.
And that's always leftover pastries.
Leftover pastries from the night before, yeah.
But I'm thinking like at the celebration, and I can't think of a single vegetable. I'm worried.
Yeah, me neither.
This isn't balanced, guys. It sounds delicious, but I'm worried. Please take a multivitamin. But where in the world did we get here?
I have no idea. We were just pointing out the random little critiques and things throughout the book.
Yeah, that being said, I'm a little curious about dyes, because I don't know about this time period. To travel around, you have to go there by cart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. So we don't have any form of steam engine or locomotive, whatever.
Doesn't seem like it now.
But they have enough. Honestly, the economy of the entire town messes with me. So they have enough money to get plenty of dyes to dye the clothing and stuff. So red and blue. So they have enough money for that. Geppetto's dad doesn't want him to become a toy maker because he doesn't think there's enough money in it.
Yeah.
How are you sustaining yourself by fixing musical instruments? There are 300 villagers in this town, and not all of them play music. How are you surviving on this?
But they're always talking about how money is really tight. So, I mean, they're basically not.
There are way more children. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, it really does. But no, parents will die on that hill.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. Questions.
So many.
What is the economy of this town?
Who knows, honestly.
So many questions. Anyway, several times they go through the one road in the whole village, and I can't.
Yeah.
We're so freaking small. But yeah, I have questions about the economy on this. How is the hat shop making any money? How do any of y'all make money? The bakery kind of makes sense. We have one bakery, but then we also have an entire chocolate shop.
Yeah, the sweet shop.
Yeah, a chocolate shop, a music repair place, a bakery, one dude's a postmaster, and a hat shop. But we can't support a toy maker?
Yeah, again, inconsistency.
How does this town work? It is not like Beauty and the Beast where it's like, oh, let me sell eggs and bread and whatever. And you get to a shop in a town that nobody reads, there's an entire bookshop / library, I don't know. And they fix it in the live action because of that, because of logic there. But what are we doing here? There's apparently farmland, which makes me even more confused. I don't know. I don't know.
Again, there's not a very well thought out map or planning. She did not think of, okay, how does a small Italian town work in this time frame and how can I integrate the stories into it? It's nope, here are the characters, here are what they do, and I didn't go any farther beyond that.
I know I'm being a business major about it, but it's just, how are we doing this? I have questions. Anyway, I like the village. I like the characters. And so that's the nitpicky stuff. I like most of it. I even like portions of Illy's story. I just don't like hearing Illy's thoughts.
Yeah.
Because her chapters are by far mainly about her thinking. Kaya has action. She's doing stuff. She's doing things. And even when Illy's doing stuff, she's thinking about her stuff while she's attempting to do. It's a whole thing. So that's where I'm a little sad.
Yeah, honestly.
Because at the end of the day, I don't like the ending.
Nope.
I don't think it's fair to the character. I don't think she should be redeemed. The only reason she's redeemed at the end is because Kaya wants her to be.
Yeah.
And Kaya's the main character, and we have to have a happy ending.
Yeah.
It has to be Illy is redeemed. But what in the book makes it make sense?
Yeah, that we want Illy to be redeemed, right? I will say the end was kind of a blur for me because I was trying to get done. But I think here's what would have happened, right? Because the only reason Illy didn't have her heart the whole time is because Kia kept it. Kia saw when it happened, the split happened, the betrayal happened. Kia knew in her heart, again, okay, that Illy would be able to be redeemed, and she kept Illy's heart hidden because she didn't want her to fully become a heartless, right? She knew there was going to be some opportunity. So I think that the only way it would have made sense is after her heart got back and returned to her, some acknowledgement, right, of everything that she did wrong. There was the fact like, oh, I feel guilty for what I did, so I'm going to teach singing lessons
to children. Yeah.
But that's literally performative. It's not real change. I don't even remember an acknowledgement to Kia of thank you for believing in me. Thank you for seeing this in me all this time, because I was a literal petulant child and couldn't see past the nose on my face, right? Ironically, haha, with Pinocchio, right?
And she says she's going to dedicate her life to fixing the things she did.
And I'm going to work better. I'm going to work in tandem with you. But like, we didn't even get that.
Her claim is that she's going to redeem herself, right? She's done all these horrible and wicked things over the past 40 years, and she wants to atone for that. She wants to make it better. She wants to fix it. And you're like, okay, she's going to travel around. She's going to track these people. She's going to do what she can. She's going to do something.
Have accountability. That's what we want from her.
And then it's just, I'm just going to teach children to sing.
No, I want accountability from her. I don't want, again, literal performative action. I want accountability.
Yeah, she's like, I want kids to be happy and find happiness in music like I did, except you didn't.
Yeah.
At any point. And it's just not good. The reason supposedly Illy finally turns, she has a heart, and so she has this conscience, which has been talking to her the entire book that she ignores. And so she feels icky about stuff, but she pushes it down. And honestly, after 40 years, you're telling me of her denying her conscience, even if she still has a heart, that it's that loud?
Yeah.
That is that prominent?
Yep.
She points out there's the coachman who has a heart, but his conscience is so far gone because he's been doing wickedness for forever. And I get an icky feeling maybe every once in a while, but her conscience is just as loud, which is, I don't know, it's just a horrible lesson about, oh no, I should stay with them because one day they could change, you know? Illy had no redeemable qualities.
Nope.
She had nothing in her storyline that hinted that she wanted or needed to be redeemed. And the trigger for everything is she makes this deal with her of, hey, if Pinocchio's a good boy, I'll receive my heart back and I'll go back to normal. But if he's not a good boy, then you have to give me your heart and then you can become a heartless and whatever. And then you're on my side. And then the evil fairies are like, nah, we're going to take her heart and kill her. And Illy's like, we have gone too far. And she turns on them and puts them in a bottle, which I have questions, but that's beside the point. Puts them in a bottle and haha, in 200 years or so, they're going to die.
Yeah.
And now she's like, oh my gosh, I am so redeemed. I've thought over everything. I've changed my ways. I've changed my mindset. And no, she very easily could continue being wicked. Just she doesn't have to kill her sister now.
Yep.
So that's why I say the only reason she is redeemed is because Kia wants her to.
Yep.
There is no other reason. And it's just so unfair to the character.
Yeah, not really worth it.
And this, her receiving her heart back, is the catalyst for the fairies to look upon themselves and rethink who they are as a people. They've decided, oh, there's not just good and bad out there, and we've been too black and white in that. No, you haven't. What are you talking about? You're literally out there talking to the villainous villains who commit animal cruelty and physically abuse their children, and you're going to them and trying to get them to repent. What? This is not black and white thinking. What are you talking about? Actually, we also want to remove the forgetting spell, and you guys need to spend time with your family. Once a year, you spend an entire month with your The rule was there for a good reason. The rule was there for Larissa's. They were evil about it, but the rule is there so you don't show favoritism to your own family and grant wishes that are above what you can grant. The fairies make it very specific in the beginning because she is thinking, oh, maybe we can help my sister become a famous opera singer, and Agata says, no, we can't make her a famous opera singer, but we can help her.
Yeah.
We can get her a vial of never-ending water to stay hydrated. We can get her a ticket to go to Valen. We can open doors for her, but she has to do it herself.
Yeah.
And so that's why the rule's in place, is because Kaya would totally have done that. She would have done that for her sister. And so they're removing the forgetting spell on the family members. And in addition to that, they brought up so many good points about why this is in place. Take, for example, her getting threatened that if she doesn't grant this random dude's wishes, he's going to come for her family. The family's going to be harmed to get the wishes, and granting it for friends and giving them... There are reasons that the rule is in place.
Yeah.
And that it's very good. And maybe if you go maybe on a case-by-case basis...
That's fair.
We will look at the situation and then we'll keep an eye on you, and you still can't grant wishes in this area. But they just completely, oh, we're getting rid of all forgetting spells now. All of our families are dead, but hey, yours isn't completely dead.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
It doesn't make sense, and it's supposed to be like, oh, there's a gray area, but this is going back to black and white. It's either completely never do this and everyone has to do a forgetting spell all the time, or no forgetting spells ever.
Yep, again, very black and white.
So it goes against the entire message of the book. What are we doing?
Again, inconsistency on every level, from who the postmaster's daughter is to the entirety of the plot. And I feel like that's a theme more often than not in these books, and I'm kind of getting tired of it.
I know, and that's why I'm so sad that Elizabeth, who has been the pillar of the community here, Illy ruined the book for me.
Yeah.
It's just a shame.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it wasn't horrible like some of the others. It's just been blatantly, what is happening? But
there's good here. There's good stuff. It's just not fleshed out.
Yeah, but Illy ruins the book.
She really does.
I would not want to be in her head another time.
If we're gonna do this, do it like the Evil Queen.
Yeah.
Hey, we have a backstory. This is why it makes sense.
Yeah.
That she's like this. You gain some empathy, maybe, but that doesn't excuse her actions. It explains them to a we can get closure about this level. But at the end of Snow White, the Evil Queen isn't redeemed. She's still the villain. And I don't know, this tightrope she's trying to walk of wanting her to be the villain, but wanting her to be redeemable at the end. So there's things like, oh, I do horrible things with them, but I've never killed anyone. I would never do that. What are you doing? Go all in, jump in, be a villain, and then have a major redemption at the end, or die the villain.
Yep.
Not everything's black and white, but this kind of is. Or go into the hardcore moral gray. Make her morally gray. Give her redeemable qualities. Anything. Literally anything other than she sings prettily. And people love her.
Yeah.
Sigh.
Yep, disappointing.
Because the Illy at the end of the book is not Illy.
No.
It's a redeemed villain character, but it's not Illy. Also, I don't understand how heartless magic works, because she takes her heart back, but she can still do heartless magic because, oh, she hasn't gotten rid of all the darkness in her heart.
Yeah.
Back to Kingdom Hearts, I see. We'll be here in the sequel, still fighting darkness.
Still fighting the heartless.
I don't know. There's also stuff like the Heartless are obsessed with not being outnumbered by the fairies, but we only meet 3 Heartless, and one of them's Illy. And then later in the book, the coachman is super evil, and Illy's worried that they're going to replace him with her. And I don't understand why they don't just make him a fairy. You want people, you want more people, you want recruits.
Yeah.
And you have this guy that's human doing more work than one of your Heartless. Why don't you just make him a Heartless? He would have done it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Pun unintentional, but intended now. That's where we are.
That's where we are.
I don't understand. And it's the curse. These books come out way too fast, way too often, and she has become more and more her own author, creating her own works and her own series, and it just feels like this was rushed.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know if I would have preferred it like the Meg book, where we're randomly only 300 pages, because this is almost 500-page book.
Dang. Yeah, it was pretty long, I guess.
It could have used some cutting and rewriting, but I just don't think they had the time, and so they're like, we're going with it. And it's still better than Liz's Worth book. It's better than Jin Colonita.
Yeah.
I don't know about Farah.
Oh, yeah, Farah Rashan, yeah.
She still seems like a unproven talent. I'd want to read another one of her books. We're about to get Marissa as well. So it's still very high up there. I'm just, when we have perfection, well, I mean, not perfection in Mulan and Cinderella. There are things, but it's so good.
Yeah, so much better.
So strongly 5-star, got the books, love them, recommend them and buy them for other people. And then we have this one where I'm just, it's not a skip, but it's not a, I would recommend it to other people. And it kind of sucks because it's Pinocchio, so I wouldn't be recommending it to many people anyway, because most people don't like Pinocchio.
Yeah, no.
General thoughts. Yeah, we just, sadness.
Disappointing,
which is really hard because I feel bad for her, because to say a 4-star is disappointing.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have given a 4, probably 3.
But yeah, when all your stuff is S rank, an A rank or a B rank is very disappointing, where some of these authors getting an A rank would be a miracle.
Yeah.
So it's so unfair to her, but it's just true. It's just facts. And I blame the editing. I blame the tight publishing schedule, because we know she can write well. And I've read some of her original works, and she writes well. She's very good at this. And so it's just, what was the time crunch? What was happening? Do you have like 2 months to write it? What is the time period here? It's just, it makes me sad.
God, 2 months, that would be insane.
This publishing schedule, though, because they have to write a first draft and then get it edited. And who knows how many drafts they go through before they're finally like, cool, we're there. And that all takes time.
Yeah, true.
I want her to have more time on this one, because I think she took it exactly or Disney took it exactly in the right route. Focus on the Blue Fairy, completely original story, not at all held back by the movie Kingdom Hearts storytelling, honestly, which is why I'm still laughing at the Heartless. But it's not there.
No, it's not.
It needs a couple more workovers and rewrites, and I'm just sad. What could have been, alas.
Alas, it is not.
One question for the author. Is she a Kingdom Hearts fan?
I bet she is, honestly.
It just feels right.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go under the assumption that she is a Kingdom Hearts fan, I'd be curious what her favorite game is. Or where her favorite area is. Because Mount Olympus appears in most of the games. Tarzan only appears in the one because copyright issues. But Monstro shows up in a bunch of them. Halloween Town.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So I'd just be curious.
This one went so dark, right? So did you look up the DSM and choose a personality disorder to apply, because we didn't have this?
It feels like she's trying.
Yeah.
She's trying really hard to get it across that she is this or that, you know?
Yeah, but why? You did a good job with your villains in Mulan and Cinderella. So yeah, that would be my thing of just, why are you all of a sudden going into the DSM-5 personality disorder section to write your book?
She listened to a bunch of Raised by Narcissists Reddit stories and was like, I got this.
I can do this.
Rating, I would give it a but family out of 10. An obligation.
Yeah, I said explore the gray space, please, out of 10. Because you tried, but you didn't do it very well.
Yeah, like I said, if Illy didn't have her sister, who was obsessed with the idea of redeeming her because family, I don't think she would be redeemed.
I agree.
Alas. That's kind of where I'm at on this one. Stop it.
Yeah.
Read again. Yeah, no.
No, I don't want Illy in my head.
Facts. She's just so many chapters. Maybe I should go back and count how many and be like, if we took out all of these chapters, how long would this book be?
Yeah, probably not good.
I want more fairy adventures. Don't tell me about how Illy's being rude to her friends by telling them to go in the shop and, oh, I'll totally be right back, even though you can see that I didn't go to the bakery across the street.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's me in the cow pasture singing for the rest of the day. Okay.
Yep.
Favorite of the series so far? This was a hard one. Normally, it's if we're missing action, I like Mulan, and if we're missing romance, I like Cinderella, and we're just missing both.
Yeah.
I do not ship Geppetto and Illy.
Not even close, yeah.
He deserves someone way better.
So I'm leaning towards what you said too. Mulan is definitely where I'm at.
Yeah, because there are interpersonal connections that we have there, even if we don't have romance, but we don't have good action. I wanted more fairy stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted a battle between the fairies and the Heartless, but they're not even seen in the same shots ever. The ending is, oh no, they're not coming because they have been indisposed. And so their one chance to have a Heartless and a fairy on screen at the same time would have been so good. Why didn't we end with a fairy fight? Why did Illy somehow be able to turn them into tiny things to put in a bottle? I mean, that would have been an interesting in the end, maybe, but I wanted that fairy fight. I wanted the showdown.
Yeah, that would have been great, but we didn't get it.
You don't even get to see them talk to each other once. Ugh. Illy is Illy.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate for everyone.
Possibly, I don't want to say one of the worst characters so far, but yeah, the reaction I had reading her, I cannot remember having a reaction reading in other books.
Hate. Which, if that was her intention,
great job. You did great.
You did perfect. I had a very visceral reaction to this character. She ruins the book. Maybe that was a Disney at the end. It's like you have to make her redeemable requirements. But alas, the world may never know. Probably won't because contracts.
Yeah.
But have you read this book? Red Lobster or Olive Garden? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like. And if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring When You Wish Upon a Star with us. Join us next time. We'll be covering Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. I'm Sam Ryder.
And I'm Caitlin.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape with Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on TikTok or Instagram to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.